Hi, this is Team1, and today we are going to be talking about predicting Hollywood success. Hollywood is in a creative funk, and about in 2016, Hollywood sold the lowest number of tickets per person. Additionally, it was interesting to note that the marketing spend has increased by about 33 times since the last 27 years. And even though there's been such an increase in the marketing budget, people are not going to the theater. And this was driven home by the fact that in the last 5 years, Eastern Asian and Latin American markets grew by about $6 billion, while the US and Canadian markets grew by less than $1 billion. So that drove us to a problem statement. What factors actually go into creating these new franchises that will help production houses earn revenue? Audiences get entertained and in turn come back to theaters, and critics get satiated. Overall, we're looking at it from this perspective. And so this is the storyboard that we're looking at, and these are the steps we followed. So we went about data extraction and cleaning, exploratory data analysis. We then did data manipulation because there were a couple of variables which were not the best and they need to be cleaned. We then went into a predictive modeling. Finally, we assessed the model and then came up with a prediction. Let me just talk about each of the steps in a brief. So when we talk about data extraction and cleaning, we used Python scrapers to use the OMDB API, as well as a couple of HSX APIs and datasets to get the data. When we got the data, it was a little unstructured and clean because the few movie names had a few different features or special characters which we actually had to remove. Additionally, when we looked at the awards, it was actually given in a sentence saying, let's say the movie had been nominated for 14 Oscars and had won 7 of them. So we had to clean that and create it into numeric so that it was easy for us to plug into a model. When you look at exploratory data analysis, the next part of the storyboard will be easy for you all to understand that. When I talk about data manipulation, there were 4 different data manipulations that we did. One was that the budget and the number of voted users were at a very large scale as compared to the rest of the data, and hence we normalized them. We also did a log transformation on the number of Facebook director likes he got because that was skewing our results. We then created dummy variables for content rating because it was a categorical variable. And lastly, we segmented our production studios and director into 4 quartiles based on the median gross revenue, allowing us to use just 4 dummy variables rather than 270 or then 1200 in the case of directors. Analysis, let's look at the social media influence. We can see that director Facebook likes and movie Facebook likes actually had a significant impact on the revenue, and hence they're part of our regression model, whereas the cast and actor Facebook likes were not part of the model. Additionally, when we look at the production house tiers, and I relay back to the tiers where I spoke about, we created 4 tiers based on the median gross revenue. We noticed that having the tier 1, which was the best or the maximum grossings, resulted in the production house winning the most number of Oscars, but additionally also having the greatest median ROI, hence getting a maximum bang for the buck. We then looked at the Metascore, which was another feature that we brought in through our OMDB dataset, and we noticed that it frankly does not matter how great your score is. You could have a score of 98 or 82, and they're quite close to each other. So you could dock a few points, but yet do great in the box office. Additionally, as it makes a lot of sense, the greater your IMDb score, the better is your revenue, and that is again reflected by this graph here. We then look at it from the user perspective. Firstly, users are filtered based on the content rating or the rating are they allowed into the theater. So we saw that based on different content ratings, there was an impact on the revenue, and hence it was an important variable that we did add to a regression model. Another thing we looked at was the impact of users who voted, because what we noticed is that the more the number of people that actually vote, the better is your revenue. And this makes a lot of sense because when people are talking about the movie, it is actually creating word of mouth and spreading a lot. And lastly, I'm going to drive back to the fact of creating tiers for directors. And what we understand here again is having a tier 1 director has a great median IMDb score, but they also win the most number of Oscars and additionally allow you to have the maximum median ROI. Hence, it makes a lot of sense to choose a tier 1 director. the data exploration, looking at the variable feature selection, and finally actually modeling and playing around with the data, we came out with our production or prediction model. And looking at the different variables we use here, a few of them were the IMDb score, the budget in millions, something which we've cleaned earlier and had spoken about, the log of direct or Facebook likes, or the number of voters in thousands. Based on this prediction model that we've created here, we saw that we've got a adjusted R-square of about 65% on the training set and about 64% on the test set, hence creating a relatively stable model. The residual plot too, though having a relatively light or small amount of heteroscedasticity, is more or less constant and stable enough, allowing us to use this model to predict the future. Talking about predicting the future, we looked at a few different movies, and the three movies that we looked at for our case were American Assassin, Baby Driver, and Alien Covenant. And what we did notice is that Alien Covenant was the movie that was actually going to have the maximum revenue in the upcoming time. It could be due to the fact that the movie is releasing closest rather than the other two, and hence we had the maximum amount of data to allow us to create a more true or clear prediction as compared to the other ones which are actually slated for a later release. That's all we have for you today, and hopefully we've had enough time to educate you all on how we can actually create a successful Bollywood movie. Thanks.